All right, we live. All right, what's going on, everybody? Doing this well, not even midweek yet. It's right after we just did Weapon Wheel yesterday. But we got Jason Schreier with us today. We wanted to do a second interview because he was with us before to talk about his book and for us to ask him some questions. And it went great. He decided to come back on, and we appreciate it. What's going on, Jason?
Hey guys, yeah, I had fun. I had fun talking about console wars last time, so I thought I'd come back and say hey. Yeah, it's crazy times. My book comes out tomorrow, which is kind of surreal. It's crazy after all these months.
Right. So for the people who weren't here, give them the whole, I guess, summary and description of what exactly your book is. Just tell them give them a reason why they should buy it.
Yeah, for sure. So my book is called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. And it's a book about how video games are made, which is something that I think a lot of people don't know much about. We might hear stories about like filmmaking or like making other forms of media, but in video games, you don't hear a lot of that. And so the way that it's structured is it's divided into 10 different chapters, and each of them tells the story behind how a different game was made based on interviews that I conducted with the developers of those games. So, like, one of the chapters is on Uncharted 4, and one of them is on Destiny, and one of them is on Star Wars 1313, and then some smaller games. One of them is on Stardew Valley, one of them is on Shovel Knight. So it's a good mixture, like good diversity, a good variety of games. And yeah, I feel like I think people who read it will come away realizing that it's a lot more difficult to make video games than people realize. And so yeah, I'm stoked for people to get their hands on it. It comes out tomorrow, so you'll be able to pick it up in any bookstore, local bookstore, Barnes and Noble, whatever, or Amazon or online, starting tomorrow. And yeah, I'm super stoked.
Okay. All right. Cool. How did the developers? Because you got this information straight from the developers, right? Or did you do like, I guess, background and research?
I mean, yeah, you always have to do some background research, but yeah, it's mostly so I actually spoke to 100 something developers for the book. And yeah, so for a bunch of them, I actually went out and visited the studios. So like for Uncharted, I went to LA and visited Naughty Dog and sat down with them for a couple days and just interviewed people throughout those days and just talked to all the people who worked there, who worked on the game, and they told me stories and anecdotes, and that was a lot of fun. And then actually the craziest thing I did was I went all the way to Warsaw in Poland to talk to the developers of The Witcher 3 at CD Projekt Red, which is really cool. Warsaw's a cool city. So yeah, for some of the chapters I did that. Most of the chapters it was like firsthand stuff like that. A couple of the chapters, the people who made the game didn't want to participate. Like for Destiny, Bungie just did not want to participate in that. They like their secrets. They don't like talking too much about what happened on Destiny. So for that, it was mostly just conversations I had with people who worked on it. Some of them spoke on the record. Some of them spoke off the record, like on background, just giving me information. But yeah, I mean, the book is basically it's entirely based on my interviews, like firsthand with people. So yeah, it's cool. I think it's got a lot of information that people will not have heard of before. Like it's when people read it, they'll learn a lot of new stuff, I think.
Right. Because I was wondering, I'm like, how open are developers? That's what I was unsure about. I'm like, are they like kind of closed or open books? When it comes to revealing all of these things, but it seems like it depends on who you speak to.
Yeah, it really does, and I found that some people were surprisingly candid, and like I was really appreciative of companies like EA let me come to Bioware and just talk to them about whatever, and like they didn't mind at all that like Bioware was just super open and candid about everything, and like Naughty Dog and Sony were really open. The indie developers are always going to be pretty open about stuff, but even the AAA companies I spoke to, for the most part, were just like really willing to chat. Yeah, it was cool to see. I think that people are realizing that like you guys know, the video game industry has been surrounded for years and years by this like veil of secrecy and like this culture where nobody can say anything. But over, I think more recently, people have started to chill out a little bit, and hopefully this book like helps push more people to be transparent, and hopefully I'm hoping that the takeaway for your average reader is like, hey, now that I know how much hard work this is, maybe I won't be so quick to go on Reddit and talk about how lazy the developers are, or maybe I won't be so quick to make a YouTube video about how those developers should have done this and should have done this, and man, if I were in charge, because you don't really realize until you've heard these stories, like you don't realize how hard it is, which I think people will appreciate, and hopefully they like reading these stories.
Cool. Jimmy or Jack, any questions about Jason's book?
Yeah, I got one. The first one I wanted to ask you, because I wanted to wait till we went live, was how long did it actually take you to develop the book from start to
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's like, so I first started, the whole process first started with like, the way the book publishing works is you have to pitch it by writing like this proposal, which is this kind of, it was like 10 pages, I think my proposal was.
Wow.
And it was like a sample chapter and a marketing plan and all that jazz. And it was basically trying to convince book publishers to publish it, to take it and pay me to write it for them. And so I developed that with my agent. And then we took it around to publishers in like the fall of 2015 or like early 2016. And then we got a deal with HarperCollins in the beginning of 2016. And then I had to start reporting because I couldn't actually start writing anything until I had done all the interviews. So that was the most time consuming part, and like coordinating schedules and figuring out when the best time was. So that was throughout 2016 last year. I like kind of spent a bunch of months just interviewing people and sorting out when I was going to interview people and traveling and all that jazz. And then I had started the process of writing, but I didn't really finish it until like this crazy 3-month period from like September or like October of last year through the end of January this year. What's up?
You just binged it.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. It was like, I told my fiance, I was like, listen, you are not going to see me for 3 months. I was just every night, because I was still working at Kotaku during the day full time. So it was just nights and weekends, just nonstop. And then I wound up taking a little bit of time off just to like finish it off. And then we had a few months of the editing process. So I would say that the final draft was done in like May of this year, like late May of this year. So altogether, it was like about 1.5 years, or about 2 years from kind of conception to it actually coming to stores, 2 years total. But the writing itself was just so compressed. It was pretty crazy.
How many pages?
It's around 300. It's around 90,000 words.
Wow.
Which is crazy. I mean, the way I structured it made it a little bit easier for me, and it was kind of, because it's 10 chapters and each chapter is a different story. Each one is about a different game. I kind of saw it as like 10 mega Kotaku articles. And so that helped me like do it in a quicker way than it would be if it was just one big story. But it was still a crazy, crazy process. It's one thing that people should know is that it's paperback only. So you can get it for really cheap. I think if you pre-order it today on Amazon, it's like under $10.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's cool. And I wanted to make it, like we were talking about it, I was like, I want to make it paperback only because I just want people to be able to buy it. I don't care so much about making a ton of money off this thing. Not like there's a ton of money in book publishing anyway. But I really want people to read it, and I really want a lot of people to get it so I can just do more books like this because I think it's important and interesting work. And I think it's the type of thing where like I imagine that a lot of people will pick it up just for 1 or 2 games, and it's totally okay if you just want to read a couple of them if you don't care about the rest of the games, because I think that some people will read it that way. And I wrote it in a way that like sometimes the chapters will reference each other, but they're all standalone stories. So if you're like, hey, I care about Star Wars 1313 and I'm really interested in Destiny, but I don't care about anything else, you can just read those 2 chapters and you'll still get a lot out of the book, I think.
Cool.
Okay, so it's 10 individual events, pretty much, with 10 different games.
Yeah, you want me to give you the full list of chapters?
That would be cool. Yeah.
Cool. So I'll give it to you in order.
I'll put it in the chat, by the way, or the Amazon.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So let me give you the exact order. So number 1 is Pillars of Eternity, which is like a PC RPG that was made by Obsidian.
Right.
Number 2 is Uncharted 4, which I think everyone knows, Naughty Dog's newest Uncharted game. Although I guess now Uncharted Lost Legacy is their newest Uncharted game, but last year's Uncharted game. Number 3 is Stardew Valley, which is this indie game that's kind of like a Harvest Moon game. It's a farm simulator, and it was made by one guy. That story is crazy because it was made by one guy over the course of 5 years. What else? Number 4 is Diablo 3. And you can actually read that chapter on Kotaku right now. If you Google like Kotaku Diablo 3, I put that excerpt on. So number 5 is Halo Wars, which is a crazy story because that game was developed by this studio called Ensemble that was best known for the Age of Empires games back in the day. And they were actually told by Microsoft, I don't want to spoil things, but Ensemble doesn't exist anymore, and their shutdown coincided with Halo Wars. So that's a crazy story. Chapter 6 is Dragon Age Inquisition, which I think is really interesting. You guys might have seen, I wrote a big piece a few months ago about Mass Effect Andromeda and like why that game turned out the way it did. I think, and you can find that on Kotaku if you haven't seen it. I think Dragon Age Inquisition is interesting as a chapter because it's kind of a companion piece to that, and it helps you understand like what BioWare has gone through over the past few years and the challenges and obstacles that they've had to overcome.
A lot of people want to know about that. That would be good. Yeah,
it's a cool chapter. And they were really candid. I'm really grateful that they took the time to chat with me for this. All right, chapter 7 is Shovel Knight, which is kind of this indie platforming game that came out a few years ago, Mario style. Really cool story about these guys who just left their studio, started a Kickstarter, made this indie game. Number 8 is Destiny. Everyone knows Destiny. And that chapter's got a lot of new, interesting stuff. It's all about Destiny 1. So it's funny timing that Destiny 2 is coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, that's kind of cute. I'm good.
Yeah, it's funny. I just got a code for Destiny 2 about 10 minutes before we started. So I just set it to download. I'm so excited for that game. What else? Number 9 is The Witcher 3, which is a crazy story because that game is like the perfect RPG, and those dudes just have such an interesting story. And then number 10 is Star Wars 1313, which is the saddest story in the book.
Yeah,
I really got some good selections. That's some great selections.
Yeah, it's a cool variety of games. And yeah, I hope people dig it.
Jack, any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. You say your book is like 10 chapters. Were there any games that you wanted to like add to the book, or is there any like stories that you cut from the book, or were you always like focused on just them 10 games?
Yeah, so I would have liked to do one on Madden. I'm really happy with the variety, but I really wanted Madden because that game is so fascinating in that it comes out every year like clockwork, no matter what.
An explanation, though, definitely.
What's up?
It needs an explanation because it has a long time of things wrong with it. So
yeah, well, it's interesting because it's like, how do those guys just like manage to make the Madden games every single year without going crazy? Because imagine working on this game and you're like, oh man, it's so relieving. Like this game is out. I finally finished. Oh, all right, now time for the next one. It comes out in a year. Yeah, it's crazy. But unfortunately they didn't want to participate. They were too busy or whatever, which is, I mean, totally up to them. I would have liked to do some Japanese stuff like Final Fantasy 15 or like Metal Gear Solid 5, which is probably a crazy story. But I think the language barrier hurts me there. Maybe one day I'll learn Japanese. But I'm happy with the chapters that I picked. Like, I think it's a really good variety of games. So I'm really stoked for people to check it out. And I think there are a lot of like stories in there that I think people don't know, which is cool. Like nobody knows the real Uncharted story until they get their hands on this book. But like the stuff about, I mean, we all know that the original creative director, Amy Hennig, left the project. So my story talks about what happened there and like what her original version of the game looked like and some of the ideas they were thinking about before that.
Do you address like, because it was like back and forth on whether she like left her on her own or where she like forced out? Do you find that?
You got to get the book to find out.
I just want to know if he found out though.
I'll leave it at check out the book and then let me know what you think.
That's intriguing right there. That's real intriguing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like interesting drama. Like the Destiny story is full of drama because that's a story where like so many of the Bungie developers who worked on Halo just left or were fired over the course of development of Destiny, and it's just a totally different studio now. So I spoke to a couple of people. I don't know if you guys have heard the story of like Marty O'Donnell, who was the longtime composer. He got embroiled in some lawsuits with Bungie, and so he spoke to me for the book. So it was interesting to get his perspective on things. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stories in there.
Somebody brought up Colonial Marines. That would have been a good one if you got like the scoop on that.
Oh man, I wrote a story about that for Kotaku actually back when it happened. If you Google, let me check the title of that story. It's called "From Dream to Disaster: The Story of Aliens, Colonial Marines." Okay, and basically the story is that like that game was made by this studio called Timegate. So it wasn't even made by Gearbox. Like Gearbox was supposed to be making it, but they kind of farmed it out to another studio, and then they got it back, and Timegate's version just wasn't very good. So Gearbox had to just like overhaul it in the last few months, which is why it was so broken and why it was such a mess towards the end of development. I've done a lot of like stories like this over time at Kotaku. So if you're curious, or like if you're not sold on the book and you're curious to see like what it would be like, I think the most obvious comparison is the Mass Effect Andromeda story that I just ran. So if you Google like the true story behind Mass Effect Andromeda, you'll find that, and that's kind of like a good sample if you're interested in the book and you're interested in the style and the way that I approached it. Check out. It's called "The Story Behind Mass Effect Andromeda's Troubled 5-Year Development," and I think it helps explain why Mass Effect Andromeda turned out the way it did.
Okay, cool. So, Jason, it hasn't been a good past week for gaming journalists. Yeah, I've been getting slandered.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened? I've been traveling, so I don't even know what happened.
So, you didn't see it? Oh man. Okay.
I was in Portland at my coworker's place, and then we went to Seattle for PAX. So I've been kind of out of it.
It happened at PAX. That was PAX West, right? It happened at PAX.
Oh, what happened? What happened? Oh man, no, I haven't heard it. Some good drama.
This journalist, Dean Takahashi, he works for VentureBeat or GameBeat. I don't know if they're interchangeable. But so he was playing the tutorial level of Cuphead at PAX West, and there's a video out. He struggled on the tutorial level for 2 minutes at one part where pretty much I'll just create the scenario. What he had to do was jump on a block and then jump to the higher block. It's literally like, you know, when you played Mario and you had to jump on a block to get on the green tube. That's pretty much all he had to do, right? And he struggled with it. He couldn't figure out that he had to jump on one block to jump to the next. And it got blown up. And, you know, it created a bad rap for gaming journalists because it's not only that, like y'all got a bad reputation of kind of being bad at games. And people say, this is why you can't trust gaming journalists when they do their reviews. I'll try to send you the video. Maybe you can watch it while you answer the question. But I guess there's different parts to this question. One, do you think that when these outlets hire writers, should they hire somebody who's a gamer mainly who can write, or should they just hire a writer who can also game? What should be the focus, the gamer or the writer?
I mean, it depends. It depends what your outlet is looking for and like what you're trying to do. So I will say, I mean, so
that was one of my questions. Go ahead.
So no, I mean, it's an interesting topic. So first of all, I think that something that a lot of people might not understand is that when you're at a convention and like you're playing a game, it's not the ideal place to be playing games. It's a lot different than like capturing games at home and like being comfortable on your couch. When you're standing there and like you have a controller in your hand, it's like you're standing, you have to you're carrying a bunch of shit. You have to worry about the camera, you have to worry about crowds. It's not the ideal place to be playing games. I haven't seen this footage, so like I can't comment on this specific thing.
Can someone in the chat send me the link on Twitter, because I'm trying to find it on Twitter? Did anybody got the link? Yeah, if anybody can hit me the link, I would appreciate it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't seen the specific thing. And by the way, I met Dean. He's a super nice guy. He's been doing games journalism for a very long time. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you suck at something, you like, I don't know, if I were recording something and just like playing terribly, I would probably record it a second time. But I don't know. I mean, I can't comment on like what other outlets do. I know we try to be careful about like showing off like how like gameplay footage, because we want to play. It doesn't help readers to show gameplay footage if they're going to be distracted about how bad we are the whole time. So like we have some pretty good gamers on staff. We actually, one of my coworkers, Heather Alexandra, one of our staff writers, she was streaming PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and she got a chicken dinner. She got #1 on stream, which I thought was pretty cool, and I was impressed by that. I couldn't do that.
So
the other thing you can think about. What's that?
The link in the DM. So I will see you. I need you to look at this.
Okay, I'll check it out. I'll watch it right now. But so one thing is that, oh God, the person you sent, I can't believe you sent me Ian Miles Chang.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know like not a lot of people like him, but he had the link. So
that guy is like one of the biggest pieces of shit on the planet.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he is. Everybody agreed with that. Like he is a piece of shit, but he was right about this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is pretty bad. But hey, I mean, I don't know. I'm not the type of person who just likes to shit on people for no reason. And it's like, yeah, if you might want to replay the section. And like, we're careful about that. Like when I'm at PAX and I'm playing a game, I sometimes, before we start shooting video or whatever, I might like play the tutorial first so I get the hang of it. Yeah, this is bad. I mean, it sucks. I feel bad for him because it's like, it's tough to play games on camera. And yeah, I mean, the other thing is like, yeah, this is bad. But the other thing is like, first of all, a lot of people, like there are a lot of different skill sets that you need to be doing the job. You also might be playing a ton of different games, so you might be good at shooters, but like bad at platformers. And there might be a lot of different explanations behind it. So like, I don't like to just be like, oh my God, that guy sucks. He shouldn't be doing this job. Because for all you know, like he might be a great writer. He might be a great interviewer. That's
another question I had. Like, hey Jim, you got a little bit of feedback too, Jimmy.
From what?
I was wondering, like, well, you work for Kotaku, but how am I trying to word this question? You know, like, they have people review games that they might not necessarily like or be good at. Do like people at Kotaku, do they like, if you have a workload, do they automatically like say, all right, you got to review this even though you're not too fond of this genre, or do they kind of like wait till the person that's good at the game can actually review it and play it?
No, at Kotaku we do more of like people request games. It's very rare for someone to get assigned a game that they don't want to play. Okay. So like Destiny 2 comes out tomorrow, and like me and my coworker Kirk are both obsessed with Destiny, so we're gonna be playing that and reviewing that because we both play like a combined like thousands of hours of the game. Or like if there's a JRPG, I'll probably play it and check it out. Or like a Mario game, because I'm really into Mario games, I might review that. Yeah, that's the type of thing where we like to give people the types of games that like they want to be playing, and usually people will request it or be yeah, it's rare to like assign someone something they don't like or aren't good at Kotaku. But yeah, I mean, we handle things differently than a lot of other gaming sites, especially when it comes to reviews, because we don't mind like waiting to run our reviews until we play through them entirely. We try not to rush our reviews, and obviously we don't use review scores, so we don't get the same type of pressure as like those sites that are using review scores. But yeah, I mean, I think that if you're reviewing games, it's different than like if you're just interviewing people or like writing feature stories. So there are a lot of different things that you do in this field that don't require a lot of skills, like any sort of skill set when it comes to games. I think it's definitely tough to review games if you don't have like a base level of understanding at them. But yeah, it's tough. I feel bad for people who are like in a high pressure situation, having to play a game in front of people, are kind of struggling. And yeah, I don't know. I feel bad when people are just like made fun of for that sort of thing, but it is what it is.
Do you think it's ever okay to release a review, especially a scored one, like that gets aggregated into Metacritic when you haven't beaten it? Because I believe Like one of the lowest scores for Horizon, for example, I
Mm-hmm.
forgot what site it came from, but it got like a 6. And I believe the guy stated he didn't even beat the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of screwed up. I actually, I mean, I'm very anti-Metacritic and anti-review scores in the first place. I've written a bunch of stuff about like Metacritic and the effects it has on game developers and how much negative influence it has on the video game industry as a whole, because game publishers use those numbers for like crazy things. They give out bonuses based on Metacritic. They give out they might like choose whether or not to publish an indie game based on their previous Metacritic scores. I think that number has way too much power and it's kind of meaningless. Like a 6 out of 10 means different things to different people, or like a 7 out of 10 means different things at different websites. So the numbers are kind of useless because they don't have any like common meaning. And so like a 7 out of 10, that means nothing. Right? And Metacritic sort of like, if something is a 70 on Metacritic, that means nothing to me. Is that a bad game? Is it a mediocre game? Is it a polarizing game? It's kind of like the concept of Metacritic and numbers and review scores is just very harmful to the video game industry. But yeah, I mean, I have reviewed games in the past without finishing them, but that was like I reviewed Xenoblade, the first Xenoblade, which I wasn't a huge fan of after playing like 30 hours, and I knew it would be still like I might have to play 10 more hours or something like that before I finish it. But I was like, after 30 hours, I don't like this game. I'm not going to like this game much more if I play 10 more hours. So I feel like I can write enough to do it. It's not an ideal scenario. I don't think I would do it again. Like I try really hard. We all try really hard. It's very, very rare for us to review a game without finishing it. And that Xenoblade review, that was like 2012. So that's the last time that I can remember reviewing a game without finishing it. Like almost all of the time, finishing games before I review them, and mostly Kotaku is. But like there are definitely scenarios where you might have to review a game without finishing it, especially if it's negative, because I feel like if the first 30 hours of a game you don't like it, then you're probably not going to change your mind. But yeah, ideally everyone should finish games before they review them, I would say, and that's what we try to do at Kotaku.
Okay, Jack or Jimmy, anything?
Yeah. I got a quick question. It's on the subject. Well, obviously you're a gamer. Based off your assignment you just displayed for Destiny 2. I got a kind of question for you. I want to ask you a question. I'm curious to know this. I'm sure a lot of other people want to know this. What's your preferred gaming platform, and if it's PC, then what would be your preferred console?
So I ideally PC. But I haven't built my PC yet. I live in Manhattan. As some of you guys live here too, right?
Yeah,
BG. Yeah, both.
But yeah, so you know what it's like. My apartment is like the size of a closet. So I can't. My fiance, we're actually looking at about to move in the next couple of months. So my plan is to build a new gaming PC after that. But I also play. I would say most games these days I'm playing on PS4. But the Switch is really growing on me. I've just been playing Mario and Rabbids, which is like surprisingly awesome, and I strongly recommend that game. Like I did not think I would like it because the Rabbids are like these fucking minion-ass little annoying like white things. But this game is like XCOM, and it's just incredibly good. It's so addictive. Like you play one match and you just want to play more. So yeah, but I will play on everything. Like I have a Vita, I have a 3DS, I have an Xbox. I play on everything. Anything that I need to play on, I will play on. But yeah, the Switch has become my favorite platform these days, to the point where like if I want something new, I will probably get it on Switch.
That's a surprise, actually. Okay, that's good. So you
because I like to take
currently
games on the go and like play them on the subway and stuff like that, and also it lets like my fiance can use the TV and she can watch whatever like her nonsense shows while I play.
Yeah, everybody says that. Everybody says that. So pretty much if you're in a relationship, you might prefer to Switch.
Oh yeah, for sure. And actually, the funny thing is, she doesn't play video games, but she is fucking obsessed with Zelda. She has played 120 hours of Zelda, more than I have.
That's a good game, though. I keep telling people that.
Yeah, dude, it's like I mean, I think it's one of the greatest games of all time, but it's also the perfect game for non-gamers. And it's like cuz it makes sense cuz it's like you jump in and you're like, "Oh, you don't have to worry about some of the like as gamers, we have kind of become accustomed to a lot of ridiculous bullshit that is associated with games, but in Zelda, you jump in and everything just makes sense. Like you see something and you can climb at it, or like you see a tree and you can cut it down, and everything is just like it follows this logic that I think is really appealing to
It's
people.
the detail they put in that game that made it amazing. It's like so much detail that you don't see in a lot of games. It's just simple stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's something about it. It's just so much detail to the simple things.
Yeah, no, it's perfect, and it's just like, my God, yeah, such a well-designed, such a just like incredible, excellent game in so many ways. I really think, I mean, that's up there as far as I'm concerned with the greatest games ever made.
Agree with us, but definitely this year it's going to be game of the year in my opinion.
Yeah, unless Super Mario Odyssey comes out and it's just like incredible.
Yeah, that might. We gotta watch and see because it might pull a surprise. I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to see.
So what are your what we can get into that. What are the games you're currently playing? What are your favorite games or your possible game of the year so far, and your anticipated games?
Yeah, so actually, funny story. I'm looking at the chat right now. Someone said, can't wait till the Game Awards when Zelda doesn't win. So I was talking to Jeff Keighley just a couple of days ago at PAX for a while. Jeff Keighley is the host of the Game Awards, and he puts it all together. And we were talking about the show because he's like already, he's a crazy workaholic. He's like already putting together the award show. And we were talking about potential games of the year. And I was like, it's got to be Zelda, right? He was like, wow, I think it could be PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds because that game is just so incredible and just came out of nowhere to just blow people away. And it's just the most popular game of the year, and it's just an incredible story. So that could also be a contender. I haven't played it, but I really want to. It's one of the reasons that I'm building a PC.
It's really
So that's up there. I think Mario Odyssey will be a contender if it's as good as it seems. I think Persona 5 is up there. I think Horizon is up there. For me personally, I can't wait for this game called Danganronpa. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah, Danganronpa.
Yeah, so there's a third one coming out later this month, and for me personally, that's like my favorite. That series is incredible, so I'm excited for that one. But as far as so far for me, my top 3 games of the year are Zelda, Horizon, and Persona 5.
Dang, he got the same as me except the Persona 5. Okay. I don't got a third one yet.
What games are you looking? Okay, you said what you're looking forward to for the rest of the year. Okay.
Yeah, Mario, Destiny 2. Destiny 2 is like, I mean, that's probably going to be up there as like a game of the year for me, just because that's like, I don't know, Destiny occupies this space in my life where it's just it's like an addiction. It's like more of a lifestyle than a video game.
So I'm assuming you're going to be playing that on PS4, right? Destiny.
Yeah, I am. Okay. That's actually, it's going to be interesting to see if like my friend group that I raid with moves to PC. So I guess we'll have to see when it comes out in a couple of months. But yeah, I just downloaded it on my PS4, so that'll probably be up there with my games of the year. What else? I'm looking forward to Mario. I'm looking forward to South Park. I'm a big South Park fan, so I'm really excited for that one. I'm looking forward to Xenoblade 2, even though I just said that I don't like the first Xenoblade. I'm really looking forward to the second one because I want to see if it's like, I don't know, if I get into it more this time when it's on Switch and it's on portable system. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what they do with it. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy fall. I've heard good things about Assassin's Creed Origins too. Just like talking to Ubisoft people are like, it was worth the year. It was worth skipping a year. So yeah, it's exciting times. It's going to be a crazy year. It's a good thing they got out of the way with Red Dead Redemption 2, or else that would have just took over. But it's good that there's so many games coming. I'm excited.
Cool. All right. Let me see what else I have. Let's talk about Xbox for a little bit.
Sure.
So since last time we spoke to you about it, we got a lot more details about the Xbox One, Xbox
Scorpio.
One X. Yeah. So Microsoft, they announced that they had the most pre-orders for the Xbox One. I don't know if you heard. Who am I thinking of?
Michael Pachter.
Yeah, Michael Pachter's comments about it. What's your take on that? Like, I don't know if you have any like other information about this.
Well, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many things they've sold. I think that I think Microsoft is just taking such a bad approach and has been for a while, because they just got so many issues. I mean, so they're releasing this console. They're marketing it as the most powerful console ever, which is fine. That's great and all, and it's cool to see technology advancing. Except they don't have any software that justifies it, and like. I mean, their first-party lineup is obviously pathetic, and has been for a long time.
Damn.
And then
You're not wrong.
unless like, here's the thing for me: if they can get third-party publishers like seriously releasing games with 60 that are running at 60 frames a second on Xbox One X, then that to me would justify it. And it would be like, okay, if I can play like Assassin's Creed at 60 frames a second on Xbox when it's only 30 on PS4 or PS4 Pro, then okay, then that power is justified and maybe it is worth $500. But otherwise, it's like, if I really want the most powerful machine, I'm just getting a fucking PC, because that's where I can run I can run these games without a cap frame rate, without a resolution cap. So I just don't see the appeal of a $500 console where your games are going to be capped anyway. And like, they're pushing 4K resolution, which I think we're still too early for that to be as big an appeal or as big a draw as frame rate. And frame rate is what actually matters. I mean, resolution bumps are nice and all. Like, you can definitely see the difference, but frame rate is what when you play the game, and you can tell when it's 30 frames a second or lower versus 60 frames a second. So like, you can totally tell. And that's what these publishers need to be focusing on. Here's what I think. What I think is that Microsoft should have, from the beginning, been like, okay, we're losing to PS4. We started slowly out the gate. We made a lot of big mistakes this generation. We need to change our plans entirely. We need to use the Xbox brand to do what Valve failed to do and make a living room PC that people can buy and like totally play around with and customize, and like get PC games on there, get them running at whatever frame rate and resolution you want. Maybe be able to like get different versions of it. Maybe you have this like Xbox PC, living room PC, whatever they call it. That's like, maybe there's a $300 model and then a $500 model and then like an $800 model, and you can get different models, and it's just open to developers, and it has like that open garden mentality, or like that ecosystem that the PC does, where you can get early access games, or you can get small games and indie games, and it's just open to everybody. And that to me would be so interesting and such a good thing to have on the market, and like, it would actually compete with the PS4 in ways that they can't right now. Because, like, I don't know, there's just no reason. Like, if someone asks me, what should I get, a PS4 or Xbox? It's objectively, the answer is PS4, because they just have such a better first-party lineup and all the same third-party games. So there's really just no reason to get an Xbox, and there's no reason to get an Xbox One X unless your friends play on Xbox.
So,
and I am impressed with some of the things they've done as far as, like, their Xbox Access stuff, and playing around with that like Netflix idea, and EA Access is really cool. I think that's really impressive, and they have some smart ideas. I would like to see their competitors like Sony and Nintendo copy those ideas, and I would like to see them get pushed to. But like, Sony doesn't need to do what Xbox is doing, because Xbox isn't competing with them. Xbox is so far behind that like Sony just has this monopoly and can do whatever it wants. I would love to see a world where Xbox is competing to the point where like Sony feels like, we have this competitor, we need to start doing our own Netflix version and like do other things that Xbox players can already do. We need to make it so you can change PSN names.
So I want to know who do you blame for the industry obviously chasing resolution instead of frame rate? Because some might blame like the gamers, because the Microsoft and Sony and all these companies saw how big of a deal gamers made resolution at the beginning of the gen. And I think it's obvious that Microsoft might have been a little bit salty of how the console got trashed initially. So is it like the manufacturers and the companies who were to blame for them chasing resolution instead of frame rate, or is it like because of gamers who prioritize it?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about that. I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's just an easier buzzword to sell on like your average gamer. It's easier to be like 4K resolution than 60 frames a second. Even though 60 frames a second is a lot more noticeable and feels a lot better than 4K, but it's just easier to be like, because everyone knows. I mean, like if I went up to my parents and I said, hey, do you guys know what 4K is? They would be like, oh yeah, we have a 4K TV. But if I said, do you know what 60 frames a second is? They would be like, no, sorry.
Right.
So I think that's like more appealing to the mainstream. That's what everyone knows what 4K is, and only really hardcore gamers know what 60 frames a second means. You know what I mean?
That's true. Good point.
So I think that's the biggest factor is them just realizing that even though it's counterintuitive because it's a thing you notice less, but it's a thing more people know about. But yeah, it's too bad. It's such a like misplaced focus. I feel like if 60 frames a second was the industry standard, games would just be so much better to play and feel so much better, and it would just be so much better for everybody, you know?
Yeah. We don't have no evidence of this, but some people propose that one of the reasons Microsoft is struggling, the Xbox division is struggling, is because they don't have the budget that they had like last generation, where they were getting every marketing deal and they had all these exclusives and everything like that. Is there anything that you know that might imply that the budget for them with the Xbox One is like smaller than the 360 era?
I have not heard anything like that, but that would surprise me. But I don't know. I can't speak to that because I really just don't know. It would surprise me because they were making big deals and they still are making big deals. I mean, they look at all the third-party games they had at their press conference. Look at all the timed exclusive windows they're buying. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, that couldn't have been cheap, and I'm sure they had to compete with Sony over who gets the timed console launch window. They're working with EA a lot. They're working with Ubisoft a lot. I mean, they're still paying for things. I mean, they got Tomb Raider. They paid for a year of exclusivity with that. They're still paying out money. I just think that third-party publishers are less inclined to make deals like what we saw with the original Mass Effect, where like it's an entire console exclusive because it's just not financially, like it's not as lucrative as releasing your game on as many platforms as possible. And I think the market has shifted in a way that the PS4 is so dominant that. And the thing is, I think that my theory, and this is kind of based on anecdotes and just my own experiences rather than stats, so just let me preface it there. But my theory is that even though the Xbox has sold, I think I don't have the recent numbers offhand, but it's about like 2-to-1. So Sony PS4 has sold about double the Xbox. So the Xbox is probably like, let's say 30 million and PS4 is 60 million, right? Whatever the numbers are. I'm not sure. I just made that up. But let's say it's about that, right? So my theory is that a lot of those Xbox owners are like people who are just playing 2K and Madden and maybe Call of Duty, maybe some Halo and Gears of War 2, as opposed to gamers who just are buying a new game every single week and playing tons of indies and like a large variety of games. So I think for third-party publishers who are making like some out there game, like not the most mainstream thing ever, like I don't know, Mass Effect is a good example, or like Shadow of War. You might not be inclined to agree, even if Microsoft was like, hey, we'll give you X million dollars to make this an exclusive on Xbox. You would say no, because even if you did that, I don't think you would sell enough copies on Xbox to justify it. I mean, I've just heard from people that they just sell so much more on PS4 than they do on Xbox. And also, fun fact, at PAX, I was talking to a lot of like indie developers, and the big conversation was, man, we have to get our game on Switch because Switch is selling so many people who own Switches are just buying all these indie games and all this variety of genres on the Switch. So that seems to be the most buzzed about platform now.
Okay. So a lot of people are putting in their bets for the November, who's going to win November NPDs and the sales, right? Because that's when
it's so funny how much you guys care about this stuff.
I mean, people see
it's the community.
No, it's just interesting because like I don't know, when I'm just like around like other journalists and like developers and like industry people, nobody cares about like the console war stuff. At least in my experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like when I've been to E3 and PAX, like when I'm around other gamers, it's for, like I said, when we're on the internet for some reason, that's the narrative. That's the thing we're talking about. But that's the last thing you talk about when you're with real gamers. But it's, I guess people see it as entertainment and watching competition in a sense. But if you had to choose, when some people think the Switch is going to win November, some people think the Xbox One X should win November since it's the hardware that's dropping, the new hardware that's dropping. Overall, Xbox should win. Some people think it's PS4. If you had to make a bet, who would you think was going to win November?
Super Nintendo Classic.
Okay. Okay. I mean,
that's going to sell that's going to be like impossible to find, going to sell every single year. No, I don't know. I mean, the Switch seems to be the one that's just sold out constantly. So, like, if Nintendo just puts out millions of units in October, November, December, I can see them having the biggest console. I don't know about Xbox One X. I mean, I think that the Xbox will definitely do better in November than the PS4 will, just because they have a new console coming out. But the Switch is just selling out everywhere. Like, that thing is impossible to get.
And Mario.
Yeah, and Mario's coming out. Yeah, and they're probably gonna do a bundle of some sort of Mario. Yeah, that's gonna be huge. So if I had to guess, it would be Switch for November. It would be Switch, Xbox, PS4. That would be my guess.
Okay. I don't know if have you been paying attention to Lawbreakers a little bit? And it's abysmal numbers. It's averaging under 500 players on Steam.
No, that's sad though. I like Cliff. I think he's a good guy. So I hope that he does okay. But yeah, that's just not my type of game. I have enough multiplayer games in my life to commit to another one.
Right. Jimmy or Jack, did y'all want to?
No, I mean, I asked all of my questions.
Okay.
Well, one person did ask me. I think you already addressed this with the MGS5 and the language barrier, but they was wondering either are you going to write, if you do another book, of course, are you going to do stories on like Nintendo titles, or did you try to with the book that you got coming out now?
Man, I would love to, but yeah, it's the language barrier and also the cultural barrier, because in Japan, I think developers are a lot more reserved and like less inclined to talk about, the challenges that they went through. And this book is all about the challenges that people go through making games, because it wouldn't be a very interesting book if it was like, yes, and then we made everything perfectly and everything worked out nicely. It's got a lot of conflict and challenge and interesting stuff like that. So it's tough. It's a really tough. And the other thing is like having to work through a translator makes it really tough, because you don't really know if you're getting the straight answer, and it's hard for you to talk directly with people. So that would make it really tough, as much as I would love to. But maybe, I mean, never say never. Like when the book comes out, I'm gonna see the numbers. It's doing really well already on pre-orders, which is really cool. We're all really happy with the pre-orders so far, and hopefully it sells really well, so I can do another book and have more flexibility to like take my time with something and really dig into a story and see what I can do there. So we'll see. My ideal scenario is that like when after it comes out, I get contacted by someone who's like, hey, man, I have this crazy story for you. You got to tell it. And then that leads to my next book. But we shall see. But the answer is I would love to. It's just so difficult. Like, I would love to tell the story of Metal Gear Solid. I would love to tell the story of Final Fantasy 15 or like The Last Guardian or anything like that. And I've talked to you. I mean, just the other day at PAX, I talked to the director of Final Fantasy 15. But even that, it's like it's a very stilted interview, because there are like 4 different people in the room. It's like his handlers and a translator, and it's hard to have like a real candid conversation when you have to go through a translator. So
right,
that makes it really tough.
So last time you were on here, you spoke about the couple different sites and I guess outlets that have like blacklisted you. How's your relationship with like I guess developers and the industry in general? Any new black people blacklisted you? Any healed relationships, anything like that?
No. So it's only one. It's only Bethesda, and that's because of their PR head, who just really doesn't like us for various reasons. And yeah, I told the whole story last time, so people can go back and listen to that if they want to hear the full story. But no, I mean, we seem to have a pretty good relationship with most developers. I think most people appreciate what we do. Actually, it's funny. I was just thinking like Activision and Bungie, to their credit, they are super professional because like last week, I don't know if you guys saw, but I reported on the first DLC for Destiny 2, which someone leaked to me, and so I reported on that. And I thought Activision might be pissed off, but and be like, "Oh wow, fuck you! Like you're not getting a Destiny code or whatever." But I just got a Destiny 2 code for them. So to their credit, they have been super professional with us. And a lot of companies, most companies in the video game industry, and most developers are just like super chill, understand that I got a job to do, and that my job sometimes involves doing things that like aren't in the interests of developers, like revealing information before they're ready to reveal it, or like exposing practices that people might not want out there. So I mean, most people have accepted that. A couple of people in the industry are kind of babies about it, but most people are pretty cool in my experience.
Okay. Do you plan to go to PSX this year?
No, I don't think so. It's not the type of thing that is like really necessary for us to be at, because most of the news from there comes out of their keynote. So I'll cover the news, obviously, and have my team working on that. But no, I went one year. I think when it was in Vegas, I went, and it was okay. I mean, I go to enough conventions that I don't feel the need to go to that one too.
Okay. Because I was just going to ask you like your predictions. Like I'm expecting Sucker Punch to finally show their new game.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Sucker Punch's game, yeah. I bet we'll see some more Last of Us 2. Although I think that game is like 2019 rather than 2018.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely see another little bit of it, like another trailer or something. Man, that just got me really excited to see PSX. And they probably have some other good surprises. But they also have a lot of games. Like Sony's E3 this year was literally just a repeat of their E3 last year, because they announced all the games last year and they were like, oh, we haven't actually released any of these, so we're just going to repeat them. So I imagine that we'll see like more Spider-Man. Like maybe we'll see a nice big gameplay demo of Spider-Man at PSX, and like God of War and Detroit and other games that I'm forgetting. Oh, you know what? It might be time to see Bloodborne 2. Maybe we'll see that at PSX.
Ooh, man, that will be something. Because
be a good one.
I don't know why I feel like they might not make it. It makes sense because it was loved. It sold well, so they have all the reason to make it. But I know the studio. They the Japan studio. Cooperated, worked with the From Software on it. But From Software was tired of making those games. So do you think like the Sony Japan studio would work on it alone if they made a Bloodborne 2? Or
I don't know. Great question. I don't know. I can't imagine them doing it without at least some involvement from Software. Maybe it's just a second team, because they have two teams. They have one team that did Dark Souls 2 while the other team was doing Bloodborne. So yeah, I mean, they have a lot of people there, so they've got to have some people on that. But I think that's definitely coming, and I bet PSX, yeah, that feels like a perfect place to tease it at like the end of the show, have a tease of it for like, and don't even have a year, because that's probably a ways away, because Sony has a big lineup for next year already.
I want you to give me some false hope, even if it's a lie. The Order 1886 sequel.
No. I mean, I don't think so. I don't know.
We got Knack too.
I was about to say Knack got bad reviews, and that's getting a sequel. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That'd be tough. Maybe it's a cool world. They could do some cool stuff with it. I don't know. I really don't know.
Damn, man. Yeah, you hurt me with that one.
But Sony has a lot of IPs, and like they have a lot of interesting franchises already that they don't really need to go back to that well. But maybe, I don't know. Good question.
What do you think? What dates do you think? Do you think next year is like Detroit, God of War, Days Gone? Do you think those are all coming out next year?
Detroit, God of War, Days Gone, yes. So God of War is early next year.
Okay.
I bet Detroit is like somewhere in the middle. Detroit, I don't really care that much about Detroit. It's really hard to get excited about that one.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
you know what? I was kind of interested in it, and then I saw David Cage, who's the director of that game, also made Heavy Rain, for people who don't know, Beyond. And then I saw him say a quote like, "I don't want this game to be political," and I was just like, man, then if that's how you're approaching it, then this is just going to be some like watered down shit, and it won't be interesting at all. So I don't know. That's not really doing it for me. And I'm interested in like games that do things with storytelling and like have diverse characters and take interesting like unique approaches. But this doesn't seem like it's gonna be that great. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. So yeah, God of War early next year. Days Gone. I don't know about Days Gone. That game has been in development for a while. So maybe it'll be out next year too. Spider-Man, well, they've said 2018, so that'll probably be like fall of 2018. That's my guess, like their big October, November game. And then maybe they'll stick Days Gone in there too.
Okay. I guess quickly, what do you think about video games at the Olympics? Yes or no? Should they be there? Yes or no?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Most people are against. They're like, hell no. People are like, they don't belong there. A lot of people don't like it. I'm indifferent about it. You know?
I'm trying to think. Do they have like board games of any sort at the Olympics?
They have chess, I believe, at the Olympics.
They do have chess. So if they have chess, then like why not have StarCraft or League of Legends or whatever? Why not? I'm down. It's definitely. I mean, I don't really like that. As someone who's a big video game fan and a big sports fan, I don't really care about the conversation that's like, oh, are esports real sports? I'm more interested in just the nature of esports as their own. And sure, why not? Why not send them to the Olympics? It'd be fun. It'd be fun to watch. It'd be interesting to watch. And I'd be excited to see people's reactions from like fans watching, just to see how mad people get. I remember when Heroes of the Storm was on ESPN one year, and I was like checking through Twitter, and people were so upset. They're like, "Why are fucking video games on ESPN, man? What is this nerd shit?" And I enjoyed watching all the meltdowns and angry people.
So Sony is, we all know Sony is, dominating and everything like that. Maybe you got a little bit of insight to this. Why won't they play ball with Microsoft or anybody else with crossplay? They're refusing to do crossplay. Do you think it's because they're like at the top of the hill and they're like, nah, fuck the rest of y'all, we're winning?
Yeah, 100%. And it sucks. And it's like, that's one of the reasons it bothers me so much that Xbox is taking such a stupid approach, because if Xbox was doing better, then Sony would have to compete, and Sony would have to be like, all right, we'll talk about this, because they wouldn't be in this position of dominance and arrogance, and like they wouldn't be able to do things like not even talk about crossplay, or like pay Destiny or pay Bungie and Activision to deprive Xbox players of stuff in Destiny. And stuff like that really pisses me off, and it's really bad for customers in general. So I wish that Xbox was doing better, so Sony would have to help out and participate and collaborate and work with Microsoft on crossplay. So yeah, I mean, it sucks, because it's like it's such like corporate bullshit and like anti-gamer stuff when they don't do stuff like crossplay, because people should all be able to play with each other on the same game, and it's only beneficial for gamers and for games in general for that to be able to happen. So yeah, it sucks. It's lame, but yeah, that is totally the reason that they have no reason to, because they are in control.
Some people are against the stronghold of like marketing deals. For example, Sony has, they got a tight grip on, they got a monopoly on like the biggest third-party games that are coming out as far as marketing rights. Do you see it as anti-consumer in any right?
The third-party marketing, yeah. I mean, it depends. When it's like a marketing deal, like, oh, we're gonna put PlayStation on all your ads, then who cares? I think when it gets really anti-consumer is when it's stuff like I mentioned, Destiny 2, where Sony has actually paid Bungie and Activision to not give Xbox players certain maps and certain weapons over the years. And that is such bullshit. I mean, that makes me so angry that it's like there's this content in the game that you can't play simply because you chose to play on Xbox instead of PS4. Like, that's such horseshit. And that really pisses me off. Stuff that's like marketing deals, like, hey, we're going to have TV commercials and it's going to say play on Xbox or whatever. I know, but who cares about that? But it's the stuff when it's like actual content that it really bothers me.
Right. Because there's still some Destiny, if I'm correct, there's still some Destiny 1 content that still hasn't made its way over to the Xbox.
Yeah, it's
And
fucking
Destiny 2 about to
crazy.
come out.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, just so like obnoxious and unfair to people.
So going back to Nintendo, I don't know if you heard about this. So gamers apparently discovered a native chat feature.
I did hear about that. Yeah, and LAN. Yeah.
Where apparently it only worked if you're on the same Wi-Fi, meaning you're already fucking sitting next to the person.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to like put in a code, like an input code for it to work. I want to know, like, how do you see that? Is this something Nintendo purposely put in there, where they may be working on native chat and they like just like they quit on it and left the feature half-assed in there? Like, why is that there?
I think, first of all, Nintendo is just the most insane company imaginable. The decisions they make just make no sense. I really don't know, and I haven't gotten a chance to see it firsthand, so I don't really know what the deal is with that. But their entire like online thing has just been a mess. Just typical Nintendo. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm very curious. It does feel like one thing that I think, even though I said that I love the Switch and I talked about that before, is that the Switch definitely came out like a little undercooked. It felt like it was supposed to come out like 6 months later than it actually did. It felt like it was a little too early. And you can tell, like, if you guys all have Switches?
No, I played.
No, not yet.
All right, well, if you get one, you'll see that like the menus of the system are just really simple and really bare bones. And like you go on the eShop and it's got like 4 options total, and it's just all very simple and clean, and it feels like it feels very not Nintendo, and it feels like it's something they had to slap together very quickly just to get the game, just to get the hardware out the door. So I imagine that within the next few months and within the next year, we will see more hardware updates and more like firmware updates that kind of add more stuff to the system, and hopefully figure out some way to get people proper voice chat, because it's really ridiculous the way you have to run it through an app on your phone. It's unbelievable. It's the type of thing where I probably just won't play online games on the Switch. I'll just play single player stuff on there, but I don't know. We'll see.
So, as we know, even though Microsoft has said like they are not looking at releases as generational anymore, I'm still not sure how to believe them. I still think they're definitely going to be like clear generations as far as consoles go, and the Xbox One X is still in this generation, right? Do you think they've like a little bit in their hearts, they've kind of like given up on the Xbox One and they're like already looking forward, like, let's just get this, like, we're thinking about the next Xbox. We're going to do what we can with this, but they're already looking forward to the next one. Do you think like that's in their mind?
I don't know. It's a really good question. I definitely believe them when they're saying that they're looking at it more like phones, because I can see a world where they're like, all right, we're going to make this one big platform called Xbox and then just release a new one every year, or like every 2 years, or whatever it is. I can definitely see that, although I don't know how they would approach that as far as software. Like, would it just be like you have to get Xbox 2 games and like the backwards compatibility lasts only a few years, and then it's sort of like with Apple, how they'll ditch like iPhone 5 after a little while, and then they'll ditch iPhone 5S, and it'll be like you can only run this on 6S or 7 or whatever it is. They could approach it that way maybe. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I'm very interested in seeing what they do. I do think that Microsoft needs to take just like a drastically different approach. But we'll see. I mean, I still think they still have this big hole in the marketplace for living room PCs that work really well, and I can still see Microsoft doing that and succeeding at it, because the Xbox brand is really good and could help them market this thing in a way that the Steam machines never worked. So
that's what I was saying. Yeah, I said the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that. I would still love to see them do that.
I hate Destiny. Right.
Oh, shit.
I hate Destiny.
Wow.
Why do you like that? What is it about Destiny that you like?
Okay, so there are a couple of things. First of all, have you guys done raids in Destiny?
Unfortunately, like so you can tell me, when Destiny first came out, how long did they take to come out with the very first raid?
2 weeks.
Then
Damn, did you? Damn.
I feel like it was longer than that. I don't know why. I
No.
feel like it was longer than that.
I mean, it took a while to like get raid ready because there was this bullshit weapon system, and you basically had to get lucky in order to get prepared for the raid. So you might not have been able to do it right away. But yeah, it was 2 weeks, and so the raids. So the two biggest reasons that I'm way into Destiny are, well, there are a few. I mean, for starters, like the shooting is incredible and it just feels really good to play. But the main reasons are, one, the raids. The raids are incredible and I love them. And there's been some of my favorite video game experiences over the past 3 years have been getting my crew together and jumping into the raid like totally blind, not knowing anything about it, and us working together to try to figure out what to do has just been, it's been an incredible experience over the years for all of the raids. And then that brings me to the main reason why I play, which is that I have a group of friends who live across the country and who I only get to talk to while we're playing Destiny together. And I love logging on and just like hanging out with them. And like we have, I just have an email thread going right now about our raid planning for Destiny 2. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to play with those guys, and that's the main reason why I play. It's just like, it's like any MMO. If you have a good group and you all play together, then it's a lot more fun than if you try to play by yourself, or if you don't know anyone else who plays. So those are the main reasons. It's also, I mean, yeah, it's just really fun to like shoot enemies in Destiny. It's just like, just blowing up Cabal heads is super fun. It feels really good. And I just got into the lore and just, I feel like everyone, or like most people have like, they might play a lot of games, but they have that one game that they just keep going back to for a while. For a lot of people, it's like Dota or League of Legends or like Madden, or nowadays it might be PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. But for me, that's just been Destiny for the past few years. And it's funny because I didn't think I would actually like it. I remember getting a copy from the office on the day it came out from my coworker Tina, and she was like, "Hey, Jason, you want this?" I was like, "Sure, I'll check it out. I'll probably play for like half an hour and then stop playing because I got really bored when I tried to play Borderlands. I never got into that, so I took it home. I popped it in, and then I think I played something like 600 hours of Destiny total. So
Damn.
yeah, that's like a fraction of the number that a lot of people have played. But yeah, that's just been my go-to game, and I'm just super stoked for D2 and raiding with my buddies again.
Well, let me ask you a quick question about that since you brought up the raiding. Because I noticed that Destiny split into like 3 categories pretty much. You got the campaign, which I'm one of those people. I'm guilty. I played the campaign and a little multiplayer. I tried the raid, and the raid's all fun, but it reminded me of the Division. So when the Division came out, I went over there. But what I was going to ask you is, do you prefer the raids or the multiplayer? Because I notice people usually kind of do either both or one or the other.
Oh, I do everything.
So you do like the multiplayer as well? The arena?
Yeah, because the nice thing about Destiny is that like no matter what you do, if you're doing co-op, if you're doing PvP, if you're doing raids, you're always improving your character because you're always gaining new gear and like getting stuff that'll carry from across all of the different types of modes. So you're always going to be making some sort of progress, and so it never feels like a waste of time. So yeah, I'm really into the PvP. I'm really into the story mode. Hopefully the story of Destiny 2 is better than the story of Destiny 1.
It is so far from what I played, definitely.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, for the beta, it was really cool. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just super stoked. Hopefully it's good.
The first one, I want to make sure I'm remembering this right. You had to pretty much beat the campaign in the first one to unlock the raids too as well, right? You had to do
I mean, right? The way that Destiny works is like you're playing the campaign. Pretty much everyone should just play through the campaign, and then it's designed so you'll just keep playing over and over again. So you might just keep playing, like there are these missions called strikes that are like you go through with a group of 3 people. You go through co-op for like a 20-minute mission, and then you beat a boss at the end. And the game is kind of designed that you'll just keep doing these strikes over and over again. And as you play, you might jump on and play a variety of different things just to make your character more powerful and get more gear and get more leveled up and get to the point where you're ready for the raid, because the raid is so high level that it takes a while before you're finally ready for it. And then once you're ready for that, it's like an ongoing struggle to beat it. And it might be that you're like strong enough to get past the first boss, but you can't play more. And yeah, there's a certain rhythm to it that that you have to really get into. But obviously, a lot of people are into it. And I just it's just my like go-to game, and hopefully D2 is as addictive, or hopefully I don't know if I'll get into that and play as many hours as I did for Destiny 1, but we'll see.
Sounds like it.
So, are you still getting attacked? Do you still get attacked, by fanboys on a day-to-day basis, or is that just like isolated incidents? Like
which fanboys?
Well,
any fanboys.
No, not really. I mean, I don't like. I blocked a lot of people on Twitter, so I might be getting attacked by like that creepy Xbox crew, but just not even seeing it. Because I just have no time to deal with that shit in my life. I just block them on Twitter. No, I don't get attacked that much. I mean, when the most that I got attacked was like during the first days of Gamergate, and those creeps just like spamming my Twitter constantly and doing other shit that was creepy and bad and harassing and scared a lot of our staff members. But that has kind of tapered down a little bit. It still flares up occasionally when like Gamergate decides to attack Kotaku for whatever reason, because there's still a bunch of creepers out there that are just like doing a lot of shady shit and doxing and stalking and harassing people on Twitter. But nah, I mean, it doesn't happen that often, fortunately.
Okay. Last question I have.
Sure.
So we got the most recent rumor about Assassin's Creed having a 1080p 60 option, right? So the question I have is, do you think the Xbox One X is, because I think Bungie also said with Destiny is for them to make it 60, they would have to downscale the game. So is it the console's fault, like it being not as powerful as it really needs to be for them to make it 60, or are they choosing to put all the resources in the resolution? Is it the console or the developers?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I'm not like a technical expert, so it's hard for me to like, I feel like if I just give you an answer, I probably have no idea what I'm talking about. As far as the rumor, I mean, I hadn't heard that rumor that Assassin's Creed will have a 60 frames a second mode, but if it does, and it's only on Xbox One X, then that's what I was talking about before, and that's really interesting to me. That's the first thing I've heard so far that has made me interested in Xbox One X, and like that if the best way to play Assassin's Creed Origins is on Xbox One X, then that is very, very interesting to me. And if it runs at 30 frames a second on the PS4, and 60 on Xbox One X, then that's a whole new wrinkle. But I don't know the answer. I'm not a technical person. I don't know anything about like console engineering, so I don't know what the deal is there. I do think that as far as like when you're making a game like Bungie is for multiple platforms, and so you got to consider that it's like PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One, Scorpio, Xbox One X. So that's 4 different plus PC. So 5 different platforms right there. You got to develop for the highest end and then kind of optimize and taper things down, pull things back so that it can also run just as smoothly on the base platforms, the weaker platforms. So I imagine that maybe if they were just making Destiny 2 for PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and PC, maybe they could get it running at 60 frames a second across them. But I bet they have to pull down just to make things running across par on all the different platforms. I don't know though. This is just me kind of assuming and speculating, so I don't know the answer.
Being that you're gaming is obviously your hobby, but it's also part of your profession. With it being your profession, has it ever made you like hate gaming or get really fatigued of it because it's also work for you?
No, never. I've hated games and I've gotten sick of games and been like, God, I cannot play any more of this. But gaming as a whole, I've just never gotten bored of because there's so much variety. It's like if I'm sick of like digging into this big open world game, I can just, I don't know, play threes on my phone or whatever, play a Mario game. So I've never ever once in my life gotten sick of games and just playing games in general, even if I've gotten sick of playing types of games or like specific games. But yeah, I mean, maybe that'll change later in my life. because I don't know, but it hasn't happened yet, fortunately.
Okay. Jack or Jimmy, anything else?
Nah.
No, I think I asked all my questions.
All right. Jason, we appreciate you coming again.
Cool. I have like 10 more minutes if you want to see if the chat has any questions. I don't know if you guys are interested.
Sure, chat, if y'all want to throw anything out for Jason. Other than that, make sure y'all go pick up his book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, available at bookstores and Amazon. Make sure you go pick that up.
It comes out tomorrow. Yeah, I'm just super stoked. I just got a text from a coworker who sent me a picture of a bunch of them stacked up at Barnes & Noble right now. So you might be able to go find it if you look at your local Barnes & Noble. It might have popped up in there. I see it on in the electronic gaming section of this one Barnes & Noble that my coworker just sent me. So it might already be out there. But yeah, you can definitely get it on Amazon. You can definitely find it at Barnes & Noble. Yeah, I think people will really be interested in it. It's got some stories in there that haven't been told before and that I think people will really dig reading. So I'm excited for everyone to get their hands on it. And feel free to tweet at me or email me or whatever. I'm at Jason Schreier on Twitter, JasonSchreier. If you want to ask me any questions or tweet at me, let me know what you think of the book or whatever else. I see some questions in chat if you guys want to.
Yeah, you can. I mean, there's, I guess, do you sympathize with devs and publishers more when their games get canceled or delayed? Do you feel like, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for them, that's for sure. When games like Scalebound, that's a really sad story. Delays, I think, can be good for developers for the most part. I definitely sympathize when games are canceled. That's always a bummer, unless it like really needed to be canceled. But yeah, there are a lot of sad stories out there.
Okay, your thoughts on Death Stranding? Even though we don't know much.
Death Stranding. I think that game, if we're lucky, will come out in 2024. Yeah, I don't know. We know so little about it, and like Kojima is so in his own world that like the thing is. So the interesting thing about Metal Gear Solid 5 and that whole story is like we obviously heard all these stories about Konami just like treating Kojima like shit and just like locking him up and isolating him from his team and all that nonsense and horrible things. But the other side of that story, I feel like we haven't heard, and the other side of that story is probably that Konami was pissed at him because he blew deadlines and spent a lot more money than they wanted him to spend. And not that this justifies the way they treated him, because it doesn't at all. But I think that this is clearly a guy who like doesn't have a lot of restraint when it comes to making games and putting a lot of money into games. So we shall see what happens with Death Stranding now that he's no longer with Konami. I am very, very curious to see what happens.
You seem like a pretty calm person. You don't seem like the type of rage. Have you ever raged or broke something due to video games?
No, I'm not a rager. I've definitely got mad and like said shit that I regretted on the internet, but I'm not like a controller thrower or anything like that.
Oh, I'm one of those. Yeah.
Somebody asked, are there any plans for you to make a audio version of the book, possibly narrated by you? Or?
Yeah, so there's an audio version. Fortunately, it is not narrated by me. It's up on Audible, and it's actually narrated by Ray Chase, who is the voice actor behind Prince Noctis in Final Fantasy 15. So if you liked him in that, you will enjoy listening to him on the. It's up on Audible now, and anywhere else you get your audiobooks from, you can buy it now.
Okay.
Yeah, just to let you know, they do already have that on Amazon if you go to the link.
Yeah.
Anything you know about the game that Santa Monica, the one that Santa Monica canceled? Is there anything you know about that?
I know a little bit that I'm just gonna keep to myself because I might write about it one day.
Okay.
And I don't want to like scoop myself. But yeah, I don't know. It sounded like it was just very ambitious and canceled because basically it was like Sony Santa Monica just needed to focus on God of War.
Okay. I mean,
I saw someone ask if I think Crackdown 3 will be canceled, which I think is a good question.
Okay. What do you think?
I mean, I could totally see that happening. I've definitely heard rumors that that game was having issues, and obviously we saw it get delayed, which is so the weight of that delay is really heavy because that game was supposed to come out on the same day as Xbox One X, and that game was supposed to be like their big launch day game, and like it was supposed to be showing off with the Xbox One X and 2. You get it in a bundle, you get them both. For them to delay that to next year, that's a huge move, and they would not have done that unless that game was in real trouble. And obviously, it got a lot of negative feedback at E3, so I am worried about that game for sure.
Any thoughts on the Nintendo lawsuit? They lost like the $10 million lawsuit because of due to the body detection and motion sensor that they use in the Wii and Wii U.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that, and $10 million for Nintendo is like $10 for us.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll do okay. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Originally, the company was trying to get 150, but judged only 10 million. Only gave them 10 million, and Nintendo is still appealing it.
Yeah. Well, they'll be fine. Nintendo has a lot of money. They have a very big war chest.
Worst game you've ever played?
Worst game I've ever played. Man, that's a good question. Man, probably like some old NES game when I was a kid that like I had no idea it was bad and I just didn't understand that I was playing a terrible game. Just some terrible like platformer where all the hit detection is broken or something. Most recently, I played this game, Venetica. I don't know if you have heard of that, but it's like this European RPG that was just terrible. I played that on the 360 like 9 or 10 years ago, and that was terrible. That always sticks out in my mind. It's just a really bad game. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I just don't have the time to play bad games, so I tend to only play games that I think that I'll like. I just don't. I'm not the type of person who's like playing a different game every day and just checking out everything. I'm more of a just play the things that I really care about.
When do you think? Because people already started talking about the PS5. Like, if you had to give a year, when do you think we're going to start really getting some evidence about that? I say 2020.
Yeah, so I think it depends. It depends what their strategy is for that. If it's like a totally new platform, then I don't think we would see it for a while. If it's a platform that's it's called the PS5, but it plays PS4 games and also just plays a new generation of games, then I think we could see it as soon as 2019 with like rumors starting to pop up next year. Obviously, Sony is working on it because Sony's always working on new hardware and just playing around with ideas and stuff. I think just because of the success of this generation, I think they would be insane to not make it backwards compatible and to not make it play PS4 games. So hopefully they are able to do that, and hopefully they find a way to like up-res or like give a boost mode to PS4 games the way they do on PS5, so it doesn't feel like, oh my god, another generation, and it feels more like a new iteration that also encompasses all these older games we've been playing. Because it does, I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but to me personally, it feels like the PS4 and Xbox One just came out. Like, it feels like it hasn't been that long. I know it's been 4 years, but to me, it feels like it's been shorter. Like, these still feel to me like solid enough systems. I know that the technology has just is behind compared to the PC, but still. And also, like, I don't know, I'm actually worried because the higher the increase in graphical fidelity, the more expensive games get, and the more expensive games get to make, the less sustainable this whole thing becomes, because the more games they need to sell, and it feels like the video game industry is moving in a very scary direction, but that's a conversation for another day. Okay.
Well, Jason, appreciate you being on again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And this show is always very fun. That's why I wanted to come back.
Okay. Stream, everybody, we appreciate y'all watching. We're gonna get out of here and let Jason go. All right. Jason, good luck on your book. Everybody, thanks, go check it out at the bookstores and on Amazon.
Yeah, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels.
Congratulations, by the way, man.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it.
All right. We're out of here. Peace.
All right, thanks, guys. See ya.